Okay, let's jump right into my Week 10 previews and predictions around the National Football League. We're going to start with Thursday Night Football. For a pretty good one, I would say. I guess at least a divisional battle between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Baltimore Ravens, both coming off of really, really good wins. Bengals winning at home against the Raiders, and the Ravens defeating the Denver Broncos in very pretty prolific fashion. Now, the last time these two teams met, it took overtime for the Ravens to kind of to pull that one out. And mind you, the Bengals pretty much probably should have won that game at home. But if it wasn't for some late heroics by their kicker, Justin Tucker, and I believe Derrick Henry too played a good role, and Lamar Jackson as well, Baltimore Ravens were able to get that win. Now, I don't know the status of T. Higgins, if he's coming back for this game. Joe Burrow did look pretty good last week against the Raiders. Mind you, it was the Raiders. I will say this, though. The Baltimore secondary still can be had. They still gave up 122 yards to Cortland Sutton the other day. And you already know Jamar Chase is a way better wide receiver than Cortland Sutton. And if T. Higgins is a go, it's definitely going to put some stress on that Baltimore Ravens secondary. With that said, though, I get it. I know the Ravens have lost a divisional game already to the Browns on the road, and the Bengals actually can play them tough. I still think this is going to be a close one nonetheless, but I'm going to go with the Ravens at home. They don't have to travel. It's a short week. That running game travels. It plays anywhere and everywhere, and I think that's going to be a catalyst for this team moving forward, as we've seen already between Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. I really like the Baltimore Ravens in this matchup here, okay? Okay, moving on. We got the first game of the year in Germany, in Munich, Germany. I don't get why the NFL continues to send some of these teams over there. The Giants really haven't been relevant in quite some time, and we already know the exploits of the Carolina Panthers. Maybe that's why, but you would assume that you would want to send your best to represent your country, but I guess they don't care anyway. But anyway, we got the Giants taking on the Carolina Panthers. Giants, they're looking for something. Of course, a quarterback. They're not getting quite the production that they thought they would have gotten out of Daniel Jones. Or at least they thought they could have got some production out of him. Really not a consistent run game. The only thing keeping them afloat is their defense for the most part. Guys like Dexter Lawrence, who's playing phenomenal football right now. Probably one of the most underrated defensive players we have in the National Football League. But he's just on a team that's not going to be winning a lot of football games anytime soon. And then you got the Carolina Panthers, who got their first win for their young quarterback, Bryce Young, last week, and a surprise victory over the Saints. Now, they're looking to keep that streak going. I would say they have a pretty good chance of winning this game. I think the Carolina Panthers, they're a bad football team. Don't get me wrong, and I think Bryce Young is starting to figure out certain things. But in this case, if they were at home, like legitimately at home, I would say they would win this game. But I'm going to go with the Giants to win this game. Giants, just a little bit more veteranship, and I don't know if that's a word, but veteran play from the quarterback, even though it's not very good. I'm going to go with the Giants just because their defensive front line is going to be a lot better than Carolina's. So just for that point there, I'm just going to go with the Giants in that first game in Germany. All right, let's bounce back over across the pond and take a look at the matchup between the New England Patriots and the Chicago Bears. Bears coming off of a dismal performance in the desert against Arizona. Caleb Williams could not get anything going. You can see the frustration physically from DJ Moore. Matt Eberflus is definitely on the hot seat, which is crazy because after their win in London, they came back home and everyone was like, oh my God, they figured out their offense is looking great. And then the last 2 weeks has just been really not great. I mean, they probably should have won that game against the Commanders last week, but the week before, but they didn't. They lost in the last second Hail Mary. But the offense really didn't look good up until, very late that game. They got some things going. But the only thing keeping them alive afloat is their defense, honestly. Then you look at the New England Patriots, still the young quarterback, Drake May. I will say I'm very impressed by him. Now, they're coming off an overtime loss to the Tennessee Titans on the road, but the fact that he was able to battle them back into that game to force overtime on that crazy play that he made at the end, towards the end of the game there to put them in overtime. They have something with Drake May, I believe so. They just got to find a way to nurture it. However, though, I still like the Bears to win in this particular matchup. Their defense is a little bit better, and I think they still have more explosive players on the offensive side to propel them, especially at home. They're at the bottom of the NFC North. but they're still one of their higher ranked teams in the NFC overall. I would say I'm sitting at 4-3 if I'm not mistaken, but they need a win like this to kind of stay in contention of that wild card, and I think they'll be able to do that this week. All right, we got the Buffalo Bills taking on the Indianapolis Colts. Not quite sure who's going to start here. Joe Flacco, pretty. I would say his performance against the Vikings was a little bit less desirable. Didn't play really well, but Minnesota's Vikings defense has been pretty solid for the most part this season. Look, the Colts have talent. I don't know what really their issue is. It is a quarterback play, I would say. Joe Flacco is just a bandage. He's not really someone that's going to really stop the problems that they have. And I don't think you can put Anthony Richardson back in the lineup, considering what had happened to him the last a couple weeks ago when they played Houston Texans, where he, quite frankly, just kind of quit during a play. You can lose a locker room quickly. And I don't know. I don't follow the Colts that intently like that, but I can only imagine that locker room, they may be split, or some of them just are not believing in Anthony Richardson whatsoever. I think the fan base there is kind of fed up with him already. There might be a couple fanboys who really like Anthony Richardson, but really the kid, like I said, I'm off his bandwagon. I don't really think he should be a NFL starting quarterback. With that said, Buffalo's coming off of a pretty close, decisive win over the Miami Dolphins. Like I said, the Bills are like the most adult team in the National Football League. Kind of like the Chiefs, where they don't win pretty all the time, but they're efficient and they find ways to win. And in this particular matchup, I think they'll be able to find their way to a victory on the road in Indianapolis and get the win over the Colts there in this upcoming Sunday, right? So, all right, we got Minnesota Vikings, Jacksonville Jaguars. You know what, man? Like this one's going to be close, I would say. Vikings have not looked really impressive the last couple of weeks. I know they got the win recently on Sunday Night Football, but it kind of got to a point where I'm watching that game and I'm like, this isn't the same team that started off the year, undefeated, right? And then they ran into this 2-game losing streak, and then they let the Colts hang around in that particular game. So I'm a little bit concerned. Don't know what the problem is. If it's coaching, is it the players not executing anymore? God knows what. But they were able to turn it around and get things figured out. So I do like their chances. Jacksonville had a chance to kind of win that game the other night against Philly, but Trevor Lawrence, God knows what he was thinking, what he was doing, throwing that ball up to a running back to high point it, where running backs aren't really taught to high point football. So nonetheless, they still lost to the Philadelphia Eagles. This game's going to be closer than what we think. I'm not really a fan of Jacksonville per se, but there's something about Minnesota right now that's missing. And I'm gonna go with an upset here. I'm gonna go with the Jacksonville Jaguars to win this game. I think it'll be close, but something about the Vikings, I believe they've lost some of their luster, and they need to find that. But I'm gonna go with the Jacksonville Jaguars in an upset. All right, we got AFC West division rivals here. Denver Broncos taking on Kansas City Chiefs. This is a team that just finds a way to win. It doesn't matter how they do it. They just do it, right? And there's a lot to be said about that. They have a championship caliber mentality, as you saw on Monday night, where, they were down to Tampa Bay a couple times there. They fought back, and they got that win in overtime. Now, shout out to Tampa Bay for playing a tough game. They did their thing. They fell short in the end, but what can I say about Patrick Mahomes? If there's anyone in the league that you want with the football in late game situations, it's going to be Patrick Mahomes. Now, got a little bit scared there late in the fourth quarter where he threw a touchdown pass, came up limping, had to be helped off the field. I know a lot of Chiefs fans were like holding their breath because they're like, oh my God, this could be our season right before us if this guy goes down. Nonetheless, he comes back in, still leads the team to a victory, and their running game is going to be sick. And why I say that is because Kareem Hunt is playing like Kareem Hunt in his first stint with Kansas City. He's getting stronger and stronger as the game go on, and wait till they get Isaiah Pacheco back. It's going to be a double-headed monster for them because right now they still haven't found a way to get the ball going vertically. Now, DeAndre Hopkins did have 2 touchdowns in this past game. Denver's defense is going to have to rebound. I will say this, though. I think they'll be able to match up better than they did with Baltimore. Because Baltimore's run game is just so prolific right now, and the way Lamar Jackson's throwing the football too is actually really a lot better than Patrick Mahomes statistically, I would say. But I'm not going to count. I'm not going to go. Listen, I'm not going to go against Patrick Mahomes at home. against a team who is showing tendencies of being a fraudster. And I'm talking about the Denver Broncos. I don't think they're ready to make that jump. I think a lot of people were thinking, well, wow, they're surprised that they won so many games, for 4 or 5 games when they thought they probably only win about 3 or 4, right? So they've probably exceeded their expectations, but going into Arrowhead is going to be a problem for them. And I think it'll be a close game as usual, but the Chiefs will get the win. All right, we got the lead, or not the lead leading, but the leaders in the clubhouse for the NFC South. That's the Atlanta Falcons taking on New Orleans Saints. They got a new head coach. Dennis Allen was fired. Falcons are clicking on all cylinders. They've coming off a pretty good win against the Dallas Cowboys. Kirk Cousins, I say this every week, I feel like he's getting better and better. And I feel like the Falcons are coming on, and they're going to be one of those teams that you don't want to see come late January, heading into the playoffs, right? So Saints, to me, they're in jettison mode. They traded Marshawn Lattimore. I think there might be, some other moves. They maybe cut a guy or two, but I don't know. But they're definitely not playing good football at all. After starting the year 2-0, head coach is fired now, losing 6-7 straight games in a row. And then you lose to Carolina Panthers, mind you, a team that's arguably one of the worst teams in football, and you lose. To me, this is a no-brainer. I know there might be a little bit more juice in the building down there in New Orleans, because sometimes that happens where a head coach gets fired. The team bands together and they come out with a win somehow, but I don't think that'll be the case. I think the Saints are pretty defeated at this point, so I'm going to go with the Falcons. All right, you got San Francisco 49ers taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Christian McCaffrey has been activated off the IR. Not sure what that means for him, if he's going to give it a go this week, or he's just kind of been put into that window or queue where he can build himself up to get ready to play some games here. Tampa Bay, listen, man, for all it's worth, Baker Mayfield, to me, has established himself as one of the top quarterbacks in the National Football, at least top 10, right? His performance with not having Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, he's throwing to guys like Ryan Miller. I don't even know the other guy, Cade Cotton, who's actually becoming a really solid tight end. He did all he could do against the defending champions on Monday Night Football. So I give them a lot of respect. To me, their defense kind of let them down towards the end there. They couldn't really stop the ball. Their linebackers in particularly, Vita Vea put a lot of pressure on Patrick Mahomes on Monday night, but they just couldn't get that win. So I like Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home against the 49ers in this particular game. I think, like I said, Baker Mayfield is the better quarterback to me right now over Brock Purdy. And that might shock a lot of people, but you got to go and give Baker some love, man. So I'm going to give him today, and I'm going to pick the Buccaneers to win this game. We got a big matchup here next, the Pittsburgh Steelers and Washington Commanders. Now, the Washington Commanders made a really good trade for Marshawn Lattimore to help bolster that secondary, which is kind of their weakness, I would say. And then Pittsburgh, they're still coming into their own with Russell Wilson now at the helm. That offense is only going to get better and better. Jaden Daniels is phenomenal right now. Not only is he a candidate for the Rookie of the Year, he's probably also a candidate for MVP, which I've already said that already last week on my NFL Sunday wake-up show. This is going to be a really good matchup. If the Commanders want to come out and say, we are one of the better teams, you got to win a game a cross-conference game like this against one of those other teams that's, at the top of the AFC. I like the Commanders at home to win this game. Now, it's not going to be an easy sledding because that defense is going to be ready to go. TJ Watt's going to try to get after Jaden Daniels as much as possible. But what I will say about Jaden Daniels, he doesn't turn the football over. He's very cool, calm, and collected, and I really like that. And you need that type of mentality when you play the Steelers. Now, it's going to be a tight game. It's going to be one of those games where who has the ball last will probably win it. I'm going to go with the Commanders in this one. All right, we got Tennessee Titans taking on the LA Chargers. Chargers looking to build up some steam here, man. I mean, the way they throttled the Cleveland Browns was pretty impressive. Justin Herbert, his passing volume is starting to steadily increase. Quentin Johnson, if he can kind of stay a little bit more consistent, he can present himself as a top tier target for them. Between him and Ladd McConkey and Will Dissly, their tight end there, who's starting to establish a relationship with Justin Herbert. I really like what they're doing there. J.K. Dobbins is getting back to form like he had earlier in the season. And then you got Tennessee Titans. I guess a good win. I mean, a win is a win in the National Football League. I mean, you take them how you can get them, and they got one over the Patriots. But I don't think this is going to be well for them this coming weekend. Traveling to LA to take on the Chargers, I think the Chargers will be too much for them, so I like the Chargers in this particular game. All right, we got Jets and Cardinals in the desert. Jets fans elated right now, coming off a really good win against a depleted Texans team, but again, a win is a win in National Football League, right? You got to play who's out there, and they did, and they got the win. Now they're taking on a hot Arizona Cardinals team who sits atop of the NFC West. Kyler Murray playing really good football, MVP caliber type of football. Him and Marvin Harrison Jr. really getting that connection going. The run game has been really good, but I would say the key focus in all of this right now is the defense, the way Jonathan Gannon has been able to elevate his defense the last couple of weeks. The Jets, on the other hand, again, Devontae Adams starting to get a little bit more involved. Garrett Wilson looked pretty good against the Texans as well. They're going to have to run the football still, though. But I like Arizona. Arizona is one of those places where it gets loud in there. If you've never had the chance to watch a game live from Arizona, it don't seem like they get rowdy, but that place gets cracking and it gets really loud, especially when they're going. Kyler Murray's going, and I think they'll be able to get after Aaron Rodgers. So I like the Cardinals in a close. I think it's going to be a shootout, but I like the Cardinals in this one. We got a matchup here between the NFC East rivals here, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys. We'll start with the Cowboys here. Dak Prescott out couple weeks. Cooper Rush, I believe, is going to get the start, which I don't know, man. I think they should probably – I'll say this. Trey Lance is going to get some play here at some point. I don't doubt that he won't. Micah Parsons, I believe, is still another week out. So I'm not sure about the status of DeMarcus Lawrence. He may be another week as well. The Cowboys are struggling. That's documented. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. They made a trade for Jonathan Mingo from the Carolina Panthers. To me, it's not going to move the needle whatsoever. So it is what it is. Philly coming off of another game where they won. They're sitting at, I believe, 6-2. But a lot of people don't feel confident in their 6-2. They're probably one of the most overrated 6-2 teams, I would say, maybe. They're winning games, but some of these games that like they're trying to give them away, but the other teams are taking advantage of it, which is a concern because down the stretch, when especially you get into the playoffs, you're not going to be playing those types of teams. You're going to be playing really good teams that want to win the game, and they will exploit your mistakes. Now, to me, this is a no-brainer. You got to take the Eagles. The Cowboys are not a good football team. The Eagles are a lot better right now in a better position than the Cowboys. So I'm going to go with the Eagles in this one easily. A pretty fun Sunday night football game. Detroit Lions and the Texans. Now the Texans coming off of a loss prime time to the Jets. Still no Nico Collins. We know Stephon Diggs is out. It's got to be the Joe Mixon show. CJ Stroud has struggled the last couple of weeks, I will say. And it doesn't help that you're playing one of the teams that has a much improved defense. So I don't. On paper, I thought this would have been a better matchup. Obviously, if Nico Collins was healthy, Stephon Diggs was healthy. But I just don't think they have enough. The Lions, to me, have proven that they are the best team in the National Football League. As from top to bottom on paper, and even on the field, they're proving it, right? The only difference is that they're not undefeated. They do have a loss, but still, they have performed and outdueled their opponents the last couple of weeks on this winning streak. So I don't think that trend will stay. I think the Lions will go on the road again and win this very pivotal matchup for them against the Texans in Houston. So I'm going to go with the Lions there. And for the final game of the week, you got the Miami Dolphins heading to LA, to Tinseltown, to Hollywood, to take on the LA Rams. Now the Bills coming off of a close loss to Buffalo. Tua slowly kind of get back in the fold. I know they're trying to get the ball more back to Tyreek Hill. Jalen Waddle actually had a sighting the other day. He's actually scored a touchdown. But the Rams are playing good football, man. To go on the road to Seattle, a tough place to play, mind you. If you never had an opportunity to go there and watch a game there, phenomenal place, right? Very loud. They get behind their team. And to go on the road and win a divisional game, a team that knows you, and without Puka Nacua, because he got thrown out first quarter or something like that for fighting or whatever. He threw a punch. But the Rams, to me, are one of those teams that they're going to sneak up on you. I think this last stretch of the season, a couple more weeks left, they're going to start to win a couple games. And I think it's going to continue this weekend. I don't think Miami is not all there yet. I think Tua needs a couple more games to really feel himself to get back to what he was doing last season. And I don't think it's going to start against the Rams. So I'm going to go with the Rams to round out week 10. So there you have it. Those are my previews and predictions for week 10 in the National Football League here on NFL Matchups. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section.